Views expressed by Casters Guild members are only the opinions of that member, and that could change from day to day. Guild members may use mature language, but that in no way means they are mature. Listener discretion is advised.
Roundtable might have you trading Percival for Gawain. Will a joke writer at Disneyland be getting fired? And GameStop stock might be going to the moon again, because that's the spell we're casting tonight on Casters Guild. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Casters Guild. I am your Guild Master Rick Perry, and the FDA would like to warn you I now contain Red 40.
And I am your Guild Master Baron Kane, realizing full well that that's made out of bugs.
And we have a new guild member joining us. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you guys, appreciate it. My name is Bill DeVoe. I'm the lead game designer at Nimue Studios, creators of a new trading card game called Roundtable. And I believe that listening to me might be hazardous to your health also, so there you are.
I gotta be honest, before we got on this afternoon, I looked up how to pronounce the name of your studios and found like 4 different ways to do it, and nobody could agree on the correct pronunciation.
Yeah, it's fun. Thank you for bringing that. It's kind of funny because the number of people who are like Nimue, and it's kind of funny. But there's actually a TV show that's now on Netflix. I think it's called Cursed. It's got Catherine Langford, who played Hannah Baker in 13 Reasons Why, but she plays Nimue, and they pronounce it Nimue in the show. So I was very happy that at least one mainstream media got us correct. So. But yeah, it is a little bit unusual. There's several ladies of the lake. Nimue, we have sort of chosen her as our guardian lady, and she's hopefully going to be taking us to new heights.
All right, so Origins Game Fair got kind of crazy, so we missed you there, but we're glad to have you on now. So could you tell us a little bit about what you brought with you to Origins?
Yeah, totally. Thank you. So Origins, yeah, it was quite a thing. I mean, Gen Con was like 8 times the thing that Origins was, but I wasn't exhibiting at Gen Con, thank God. So Origins, yeah, it was a lot of work. What we brought with us is a new trading card game we just released in March. Did our Kickstarter last August. We launched during Gen Con, of all things. And we went to production in December of last year, and then we finally got everything ready to go and launched in March. And Roundtable is a trading card game set in the age of King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table, hence the name. And what we brought with us were starter decks, which are our main, sort of basic introduction to the game. You get a starter deck, and then that's how you start playing the game. And then we also have what we call treasure packs, which are our booster packs. And those are just simply there to add to your collection. Roundtable's a very balanced game. I've been working on the game off and on for about 10 years now. And we finally, in the last couple of years, I was talking with my wife about it, where I'm like, you know what, I'm kind of tired of this thing just sort of sitting there on the back burner. And it's like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And so went really heads down on it, trying to get things squared away. And the last 2 years really saw us being able to do that. We got a team together with graphic design and copy editing and some art. And we were able to get a bunch of things knocked out. But what we really focused on was making the game very balanced. One of the things that I think that a lot of trading card games have today, and I mean, I still play Magic every now and again, but it just feels like it's all about the combo. It's all about the infinite, the combos or the first turn kills. And if you can't kill somebody in 4 turns, then you don't have a tournament-worthy deck. It feels a little bit degenerate. And when I first started playing Magic 30 years ago, a lot of our decks were just theme decks, right? They were just really silly things, and it was like, oh my God, can I get hypnotic specters and bats and royal assassins together to do some damage to somebody? And they weren't very well crafted, but they were a lot of fun, and we really enjoyed that. And one of the things that we wanted to do with Roundtable was sort of recapture some of that joy and discovery that we had with Magic way back in the day. And so what we've done is really created a game that we feel is very balanced, and it's very focused on sort of tactics and strategy around how we manipulate the battlefield. So it's not about overpowering your opponent. It's not about brute force. you're not attacking the other player or the other player's creatures, so there's no life points you have to keep track of. Instead, what you're doing is trying to control different regions of Britain, and we actually use real places in England and Wales, and you can see like on our cards that has a little mini map shows you where on the island they are. But each of them has a different amount of value based upon how important it is. It's resources, people, that kind of stuff. And that's called renown. And the game is played, you play for 5 regions. Whoever has the most renown at the end of the game, when the last region is captured, wins the game. So it's not about getting the most stuff, it's about getting the most valuable stuff. And how you change up the battlefield with what we have our quests and redirects, because what do knights want to do more than anything? They want to go on quest. So you can remove them from the ability to campaign to try to capture those regions by sending them on quest. And then we also have this opportunity of redirecting, giving false orders, or re-engaging knights that are on quest and making sure, like saying, hey, look, I know you want to go do the Cornish pixies and stuff, but I really need you to go attack this region. And so you have the ability to really change up who's doing what on both sides of the battlefield. And it really does, I think that's where the game shines, is in that play with the other person about who's doing what to whom and where things are going and stuff. And that's, I think, where we really have had the most fun.
So I gotta ask, we actually did an entire episode on Arthurian legend before, so I know that we have listeners who are going to be interested for that reason alone. So why Arthurian legend? What drew you to make that the theme of the game?
That's so I got into D&D when I was about 10 years old. I was in 5th grade, and a bunch of guys that I knew played. We all played AD&D because that's all that was. I guess there was basic, but we were playing advanced. And not long after that, Excalibur came out. And of course, one of the influences for Dungeons and Dragons was, of course, the Lamort d'Arthur, Once and Future King, all the Arthurian legends that were already well known and published at that point. So that's when I got involved in it. That's when I got interested in it. And so when I was looking for what did I want to do, I kind of went back to what was D&D, what was, Excalibur, the movie. I played Pendragon when I was in college, the role-playing game, and really enjoyed that. I thought Greg Stafford did a fabulous job sort of making a game around all the different challenges that existed and contradictions that existed within the Arthurian literature. And I thought he did a really good job of kind of like smoothing the edges and making it palatable. And I wanted to kind of do something similar. And I was looking at a bunch of different settings, but Arthur's just always been kind of a cool thing for me. So it just ended up being the topic. And the original game that I had was very different in terms of the structure and how things were working. So the current game resembles it in elements, but a lot of it is very different than what I originally envisioned. But it's always had like that core Arthurian legend, as a piece of it. And then what we did to bring it to life and what we expanded it to was a lot more collaborative from a lot of people coming to the game, and then bringing that together to actually publish something. But yeah, Arthur has always been something I've enjoyed. Just that era has always been of interest to me.
So how long have you been in quote unquote the business, or is this really your first project?
So I've done a lot of gaming stuff. Like I used to write modules when I was younger. None of them ever got published or anything, but I was very creative in world design when I was a lot younger. And then I was often the game master when we did games when I was in college. So whether it was Top Secret or whether it was Pendragon or whether we were playing Battletech and we were doing, keeping track of our own mercenary units, all that stuff, I was sort of like the guy who was doing all that stuff and building those worlds that way. So I've always been involved at some level. I've also done some computer games, and so that's been something that I've had in the side wing, I guess, of my game design and especially sort of like tabletop design stuff. But this is actually really our first real foray as tabletop kind of introduction. So it's been an incredibly steep learning curve, I got to say. But I think overall it's been really interesting to kind of take all these things and hear from other people. I got really lucky. Gamma Expo, there was a guy there who took me under his wing, was like sort of helping me out and navigate this really weird world that I found myself in. And it was just really good because it was just such a fascinating learning experience, but also such a steep learning experience just to kind of understand how all this stuff works, learning about distribution models and how do publishers work and all that. It was trial by fire for a lot of it, and very quickly cut off some avenues for us when we learned things like, oh, you need to take this amount off of your MSRP to be with a distributor. We're like, okay, that's too much. We can't do that, So it's like that's a loss on every product. I'm sorry. So, there's just some things like that. I am a business owner. I've had my own businesses independently of this for a while, but none of them are remotely near this space. And so this has been like a very interesting trial by fire, and drinking from the fire hose at all these conferences and from all these things, members of Gamma and the IGDA, and having all those resources available to us, and then suddenly learning things like, oh yeah, no, I should have done it that way. Gotcha. Well, maybe next time.
You have gone to a couple of different conventions. Why bring this particular product to Origins?
Well, honestly, Origins has always been someplace I wanted to go. I found out about it years and years ago, and I was like, oh, that sounds like so cool. It's a game fair. I want to go to a game fair. It's like a Ren fair, but for games. And no, it wasn't. But it was my first thought. I thought, that just sounds kind of quaint and interesting, and it's like very crafty. It's like, no, it wasn't very crafty at all, but it was very interesting. And so Origins was actually, it just ended up being sort of the first one that we could go to that we felt like we have a product, we know what we want to do with it, we know how we want to approach this, and how we want to position this for people to see it for the first time. And it was, so we kind of had some demos last year. We were doing a bunch of local game stores and stuff, and doing a summer tour all up and down the Front Range here in Colorado, and kind of getting a feel for like, well, how do we want to show this off? What kinds of things are we doing to showcase? What are we going to showcase? What are we going to downplay? How do we get people to like kind of look at the cards in the first place? And so we had some ideas, but then we kind of had, some other things sort of thrown up going, hey, what if you do this? Or what if we do that? And it just sort of ended up that Origins was that first testing ground in a way. And it wasn't specifically because it was Origins, but Origins sort of has always been on my bucket list. And it happened to be a con that I was able to get a booth at very easily, and felt comfortable going in there with that understanding of how we were going to position the product and stuff with folks. So I think we did a pretty good job, and it was we got a lot of really good feedback from folks. So that was nice.
Love that. So where can people find Roundtable, the TCG?
Great question. So we actually have a website. It's roundtabletcg.com. And that just takes you to our main site. We have a whole bunch of blog posts up there about the game and about like what's going on with Nimue and stuff. But from there, there's a couple of links that go to our online store. We have a Square site that we're using as our primary source for domestic sales, U.S. sales. The good thing is that because we're so small and we're so hungry, I guess you could say, I do fulfillment shipping within about 24 hours. So if you place an order within 24 hours, it's in the mail. And then usually it's 2 to 3 days after that for fulfillment. So we're trying to be as fast as we can about trying to get those turned around and get the packs in the hands of people who want to play. But we also are offering now through Shopify, we're offering international sales to Canada, UK, and Europe. So we had people who backed the game from Europe, from the Netherlands and Belgium and stuff, and we're like, wow, okay, cool. And I'm looking at this game going, this is all set in England and Wales. I would think people in England and Wales might be interested in seeing their hometown on our cards. So we finally were able to do that and open up that site so that they can get access there as well. So really excited about that. We're just trying to get the word out now that, hey, look, this is available in case you're interested. But we're not like running any huge marketing or anything right now. We're just trying to figure out where to invest. And that's been really hard because from my perspective, the parts that I'm really good at are like the game design, the creativity around like what kinds of quests do we have, what kinds of, redirects, what nights do we add, what nights are we adding, what nights are we reserving until later kind of thing, future expansions and stuff. And sales and marketing are not remotely in my bailiwick. They're not natural talents that I have, and they are not skills that I've developed. So it's definitely been challenging trying to understand the market and understand how to sort of break out. Of course, there's 84 new TCGs this year. It's ridiculous. Every time I turn around, there's somebody else on Reddit going, "Hey, I just made a new TCG," and I'm like, "Oh, please stop." But and I'm like, "Well, good for you. Yes, good for you. But please, it's really hard, and I hope you are ready for the slog you have to go through." And then you see games like Grand Archive that don't seem to be like trying hard at all and are just succeeding almost in spite of themselves. You're like, wow, there's just some people who are just blessed to be able to do that stuff, and more power to them. But it makes me jealous that I don't have those skills. So
I think we know the feeling on just another level, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's a challenge, no doubt.
Oh yeah.
Baron, did you have any other questions before we move on to our other topics?
No, I just was enjoying the information I was getting out of it, and it's exactly what I was hoping it would be. I'm a Arthurian. I don't want to say expert, but an enthusiast. I do love my Arthurian legend, and it's just really cool to get a game out there that taps into that, and I'm really excited to play it.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, one thing I want to do is say about it is that we did keep a lot of the core Arthur folks the same, right? So, we're not like gender bending or race swapping anybody who's like from the core set, quote unquote. We are, however, expanding the mythology in our game. So while you've got Gawain is a white redhead dude, right, from Scotland, and Lancelot's from Gaul, and Arthur and Guinevere. We've got all those guys, and they're all the core stuff is there, and we haven't messed with it. We're leaving it the way it is. There's definitely knights that are part of the literature that we haven't included. We've reserved them for later expansions. But we did open it up, and we brought in some folks from the Moorish lands, from the Holy Land, North Africa, that kind of stuff, as well as Scandinavia. So we're bringing in and mixing in things not in the periphery, but around the edges that I think really flesh out the game and make it a little bit more interesting, and it's maybe a little more relatable for some folks. And it's it's not like detracting in the slightest. In fact, I think it's additive.
Absolutely.
But the other thing is that for future expansions, we're looking at things like Scotland and Ireland. We're looking at the Holy Roman Empire. We're looking at Gaul and the Moorish lands. But we're also looking at the Fey realm. One of the characters that we have in the game is Kalia, Queen of the Fey, and we want to. Our next expansion that we're thinking about, or rather our first expansion, is all going to be about magic and the Fae. So we're looking at trying to have Merlin and Morgan Le Fay, as well as some magical sites and stuff like Stonehenge tossed in. That'll start to play with the rules a little bit. So the first set, we wanted to make sure that we were really like, hey, look, let's try to make this not as simple as we can, but let's not make it complicated, right? We got some good mechanics. They're pretty solid. And if you understand them, then you can play the game pretty consistently without having to consult the FAQ all the time and figure out race conditions or whatever. But we do know that we wanted to extend that rule set and start playing with things in future expansions. So people could play with the expansions and mess with the rules, or they can just keep the core set and then keep playing with that and then keep the core rules the way they are. So we are we're encouraging people to sort of play with some things and go different directions. The other thing that we're working on right now is the collaborative mode or cooperative mode, so that people can play against the game. We're kind of funny. We're thinking about it. We're like, because we love games like, Pandemic, Cthulhu, Death May Die, and we're just sitting here going, yeah, we love these cooperative games. And we look and we go, wait, hold on. Ours is competitive. How did that happen? So we're looking at doing a cooperative mode, trying to get something out by the end of the year. That's what we're pushing for. But the idea really is going to be about making that you're playing against the game. So everyone's got to pool their resources to try to conquer different stages of a grand quest. And then, kind of see how that is playing out. We've got a whole bunch of different prototypes we're experimenting with to try to figure out the best way to do that. Because, do we have it? Do you want to play against sort of like the different stages, and you have to defeat the brigands, and you have to make sure you have 25 total resistance. If you're playing with 2 players or whatever, and then like, okay, you've done that. Go on to the next stage. Or do we play against another deck, or do we play against this? And so we're thinking through all these different options, trying to find a good way to capture still the flavor of the game, but also allow people, to be able to use the decks that they have instead of like, I have to craft a special deck and I have to get rid of all my quests and redirects because those are useless. They want to make sure everything is still applicable and usable and valuable in this cooperative mode, but also how is that going to work? So it's been a design challenge. But it's also been, like really trying to figure out where's the fun, right? We got to find that core of fun with this thing, and then expand upon that. And that's been one of those lessons that I learned. There's a guy that I knew years ago, used to work at Epic Mega Games. They made Unreal Tournament, and his big thing was you have to find the fun. So figure that nugget out, and then you grow outside of that. And so that's what we're trying to do. I thought it was great advice, and it's been driving my design sense.
Nice.
Yeah, when Lorcana released their cooperative expansion, I kind of went on a little bit of a rant on this podcast about how I feel like every TCG should do that because it gives you a whole new experience to play with your friends and becomes a really good way to teach people how to play the card game too, because it kind of removes that competitive element and the person teaching you gets to cooperate with you, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, the excellent point. And I think you're right. There's an element there of being able to lead someone in their learning experience. I mean, our game, it's nice because all you need to get started is a starter deck. They're designed to be playable from the box. So the barrier to entry is pretty low. You get a starter deck, you open it up, and you can play. It has everything that you need to play the game. But by the same token, you still have to understand the rules. You have to figure that stuff out. And so I agree. I think the cooperative element does provide entry for other people to be able to experience it and not be feeling like they're left behind or that they're going to be outclassed and why am I bothering to do this? You're so much better than I am. It's an opportunity for us to, learn together and play together and try to beat the game. And I think there's a lot of fun in that. Like I said, we've loved it. We started playing the Aliens game. My son's hardcore into the Alien franchise. He's 13 and he's all about xenomorphs and everything. And there's an Aliens board game, but it's all about, cooperative play, trying to get the Marines out of Hadley's Hope and get them back on the Sulaco, get them out of there. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm kind of amazed that our first game was just we so immediately fell into the rut of make it competitive because it's a trading card game.
Right.
Like what are we thinking? Oh my god. And now we're looking at it going, okay, now how do we take this and evolve it so that it's a cooperative game also?
All right, well, that all sounds fantastic. Links will be in the description on where you can find this game. And we're going to go ahead and move on to some of our other topics.
Fabulous.
I almost think we need to come up with a name for this segment because I'm doing it almost every episode. It's time to complain about Wizards of the Coast again. So, Wizards of the Coast made an announcement where on D&D Beyond, they were going to be making a lot of huge changes. The biggest change being that they were kind of forcing a change to the 2024 version of the rule set versus the 2014 version of the rule set. A couple of my players in the game of D&D I'm running right now, which I'm trying to kind of rush to the finish so I can switch systems, but they already noticed that some of their abilities and some of the things that has already changed on their character sheet. But the big thing was that September 3rd, they were going to be removing all of the legacy spells and all of the legacy magic items and replacing them all with the new rule set. If the new rule set had those spells and magic items, if not, they would just be removing them entirely. and that if you wanted to use those spells and magic items, they would still exist on the site, but you could not put them on your character sheet. And the fix they announced for that was that you could go and recreate those items in the homebrew, re-enable homebrew on your character sheet, and then add them as homebrew spells and homebrew items.
Boy, that doesn't sound like a pain in the ass.
Right.
at all.
Also, let me interject here. I do think I have a name for the segment.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm so ready.
You should know what it is. It's
Miss the mark.
Miss the mark.
So I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
That's so appropriate because that's all they keep doing. They even admit it themselves. I mean, you pluck the words right out of their own mouth there.
Yeah.
But it's okay. So there's a lot of things wrong with this change. Now we will go into the fact that WotC kind of backpedaled and is not making this change. But let's go into why this was a bad idea in the first place. First of all, you're forcing people into this new rule set before it's even complete.
Yep.
I get that you're trying to say this is all one D&D now, like this is not a new edition, it's just updates to the current edition or whatever, but let's be real, this is a new edition. And the Dungeon Master's Guide isn't due out until November, and the Monster Manual isn't due out until next year, which means you don't even have the 3 core books that are kind of necessary for running D&D yet. And you're already forcing people to change to your new player's guide, which just came out.
Yeah, they actually had it as a huge thing. It was like, you get your 2024 player's handbook at Gen Con.
Yeah.
So they were hardcore pushing it.
And even then, in order to do that, they were literally selling tickets to that line on Gen Con's website. You couldn't just walk up to the booth and buy one. Like, you had to buy your ticket, you had to register, you know what I mean? I don't think the ticket to get into the line actually cost or anything, but like it was very limited, and basically you had to register to stand in the line, and then, you know, if you managed to make it in there, then you could go buy it at the booth, which was ridiculous.
But I could see Wizards doing that, though, selling tickets for your chance to buy the book.
Yes. Their whole model is just screaming, you know, Electronic Arts at this point. Like, everything is microtransactions. Everything is, we're going to be releasing new stuff every year, and the old stuff's going to be obsolete, and you have to buy the new stuff. They realized as D&D became more and more popular that the only money they were making was from the books, and the only people who were buying the books were dungeon masters, and they were like, this needs to be more profitable, this needs to be more marketable. And look, as a company in the society we live in capitalism, I get it, you got to make your money, but I feel like every single turn they make is just the wrong direction.
And they are really going to have to watch their shit, because the stuff that made them popular is moving away from them.
Yeah.
So, like, Critical Role, they're not going to be D&D very, very much longer.
Nope.
Dimension 20, they've been doing more and more stuff that's not D&D.
Yep.
So...
Yeah, and I'll say that the number of other systems that were out there, or content that was made for RPGs that was not D&D, was huge. I mean, at Origins, there was quite a lot of it, but at Gen Con, I mean, it was like every time you turned around, it was new source books and new, other, new modules and add-on books and stuff for systems that were not Dungeons and Dragons. So there's a tremendously competitive landscape out there for them, but they do seem to be like almost intentionally hitting themselves and shooting themselves in the foot every time that they turn around. It's like, oh, well, you can't make anything without paying us a royalty. Say what?
Right, exactly.
And then you're like, oh yeah, we're going to do this. But like, well, you haven't released these books yet, and we can't play it if you're not going to release the books, and the books aren't. I mean, it's a bad approach to how they're doing it. I agree completely. If you're going to roll out not even just a new set, but like an update with some additional things, you don't piecemeal it like this and expect people to be able to adapt to this piecemeal, incremental rollout. It's got to be done a lot more deliberately, and it seems like they're just not talking with each other.
Yep. And this is, at least in my opinion, is coming from a place of I just added probably 5 new systems to my household at least this year alone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and I'm waiting on another. So it's like I don't need you, D&D.
Yeah.
It's like, in fact, if I wanted to play you, I have all the 5th edition books I'm going to need. I have all the 3rd edition books I'm going to need. I have all the AD&D books I'm going to need.
Yeah.
I don't need you, Wizards. Sorry.
Interesting. When my son wanted to play, because he watched Stranger Things, and he's like, "Oh my god, they play D&D," and so I asked him. I said, "Do you want to play the most recent version, or do you want to play the OG? What I played when I grew up, and what they play on Stranger Things?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm going to play the OG version." I'm like, "All right, let's go for it." So I didn't buy any new books. Yep. I'm like pulling out all my old books from the shelves, which are falling apart, and got all my marks, and I colored the different monsters in the monster manual with colored pencils and stuff when I was 12. But they loved it. They had a chance to actually do something like that, and it didn't require me to invest in anything new. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, everything seems to be going to the fact that they bought D&D Beyond, and now they're trying to make D&D Beyond their new content machine. I feel like at this point they don't even care if they sell physical books. It's all about getting people to use their virtual tabletop and getting people to buy into it and microtransaction the hell out of it and, make it, monetarily sustainable, I guess would be the business word for it. It honestly just reminds me of when we first started this podcast. Me and Baron, we were both so optimistic about the future of D&D. We love the fact that there were so many new people getting to the hobby. We were, focusing on crashing down the gatekeepers and making sure as many people could get into this hobby as possible. We were singing Wizards of the Coast's praises. And we were like, we had so many ideas where, like, if they wanted to make more money, I feel like what they needed to do, instead of trying to make us pay microtransactions for the stuff we already have, the move would have been release related products, release official Wizards of the Coasts and Dungeons and Dragons t-shirts and dice sets and play mats and dice towers and dice trays, and like there's such a market, and they could have been the heroes of the industry if they'd have just went out and gone to the little creators and been like, hey, we want to make your product official product, and given people fair prices for their product and made so many things. They could have been great, and instead we're just looking at them like, what the hell are you doing?
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of WTF moments lately with these guys. I agree with you. It's been disappointing because, I mean, like I said, I grew up on D&D. It was my go-to from when I was 10 years old. So I've been doing this for years. And
bless you.
Thank you. So it's, and to see it, how it's evolved and stuff, I bought, second edition books, and I bought some third edition, and it's been looking at it, and I remember having conversations with people, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm a necrophage, Dracarian, whatever." And I'm like, you're saying words, and I know that they're related somehow, but I have no idea what you're talking about. So it's just kind of fun, and I'm really excited about. I mean, things like Critical Role and Legends of Evantris and these groups that are out there that are actually like doing a lot of things and helping spread the gospel of essence of role playing games, and how cool it is to play with your friends and have shared experiences like that. It's just such a special, magical thing, and when you've got the sort of corporate overlord here that's just trying to figure out, how do I nickel and dime this to death, because I can make 28 more cents if I charge you to buy virtual dice. You can skin your dice. Okay, yeah, who cares? It's kind of sad.
Yeah, but a lot of people complained about these changes, and Wizards, of course, it didn't take them long to backpedal, because this is Wizards' MO. now.
I'm starting to think that that's the best way. That's the only way they know how to ride the bike is backwards.
So they keep coming out with terrible announcements. The community cries in outrage, and then they go, oops, just kidding. So they did make an update to the changelog where now they aren't forcing you into the new system. If you have the old player's handbook, if you have the new player's handbook, you get to choose which one you're using when you're creating your character sheet. You get access to both options. The only change that they are quote unquote forcing is some renaming. So the three things that they give as examples is they're changing the word races to species, they're changing the word inspiration to heroic inspiration, and changing the word cast spell to magic. So it's all just some names of some things that are being forced to change just so they all fit on the same character sheet, whether you're using the old or the new system, which would have been a better way to handle it from the start.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you think that this is sort of like they're trying to test waters, and so they make these announcements expecting to have to backtrack a bit?
Oh, 100%. I really do think that, too. I think I even mentioned that before. I think a few of these corporations have been doing that, where they'll come up, they're like, you know what? I think I'm going to try this out. Hey, this is what we're going to do. Oh, you hate it? Just kidding. We fired that person. You know, it's like, I guess I can give them credit for it being smart, but because in the end they look like the hero for backtracking it. But how many times is that going to work?
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it's not the right way to go about it. If anything, I hate them more, if that's true.
Yeah.
Like, if this is the reason they're doing that, I would hate that more than them just making a mistake and then realizing it was a big mistake and then changing that mistake. If I believed that's what they were doing, if I believed that they were just making mistakes and then going, oh my God, we didn't realize you guys were going to hate this much, we'll change it, I would give them all the props in the world for listening to their community and making changes based off of what their community wants. But like you and Baron said, I think it's honestly, they're doing it's better to beg forgiveness than ask permission thing, where they know what they're making is a shitty move and they're trying to see how much they can get away with.
Yeah, and I wonder, I mean, to your point, I wonder, because there's an element of, like, you know, sort of what will the market bear? And I don't mean price-wise, but just mean, you know, tolerance-wise. You know, how much are people going to complain, or are people going to complain about things? And then you find out, oh, people aren't really complaining that much. I guess we can go ahead and do that, even though it's like this absolutely abysmal idea. And nobody in their right mind would want to do that. But we didn't hear huge outrage. I mean, at least we do have communities that are vocal and willing to raise a ruckus when things are looking bad. But, you know, there are other industries where sort of that slow decline into mediocrity has been allowed to happen because people have just been like, okay, well, I guess that's what we get these days, you know?
Right.
That's unfortunate. Let's hope that it's more the they really made a mistake and not this is an intentional move to see how palatable this is before we potentially backtrack.
And I will say, even then, this has happened 3-4 times now.
I'm starting to lose count. I mean, like, if we count the Hidozi mistake, where they just did not change that. We're forgetting how far back this goes, right?
Oh God!
The Hidozi mistake, the OGL mistake, the fucking Pinkertons.
Pinkertons.
Oh God! Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, like the thing is, they've made so many of these mistakes that like you forget how many of them are, and I'm sure off the top of my head, I'm forgetting at least one. As long as we're talking about the Magic the Gathering side of WotC, along with the Pinkertons, let's not forget that obviously AI-generated ad that they put out for the new Magic the Gathering set a while ago, and then tried to claim that it wasn't AI, and then backpedaled and went, oh, it was AI.
Yeah.
And then there's all those new job postings they were just putting up that just the titles of those job postings made my skin crawl.
True enough.
So, yeah.
It just keeps happening. And if it were just a couple of things and it was just, oh, we made this mistake, we're sorry, let's fix it this way, and it was just a couple, like I could give them the benefit of the doubt. But the fact that it just keeps happening over and over and over again, and a lot of the apologies we're getting are just too little, too late.
Accountability seems to be lacking in a lot. It's lacking in a lot of places.
Yeah.
You know, we're not seeing people. You know, that's the whole mistakes were made things. Not hey, I effed up. You know, so and people are not willing to especially corporations. You know, I mean, how many times are they? We're going to pay $135 million fine, but we admit no wrongdoing. Well, then why are you paying the fine? You know, it's just like, no, you guys screwed up. You really screwed the pooch in this one, and you should be held responsible. But you know,
really bad. No, actually, I'm going to consider this a really good segue. Speaking of corporations, how bad they're fucking up and who should be held accountable. I was seeing something today. I saw this on Twitter, and it was like, you know how they have the Avengers Academy and stuff? Well, they recently introduced Deadpool and Wolverine. So Deadpool made a joke about how someone, they kind of cut into the joke, but he was like, you know, someone should have thoroughly read the entire terms and conditions on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And if, you know, anybody listening doesn't know what's happening, you know, someone died on Disney property, and they tried to say that they're not liable for it because the husband signed up for Disney Plus.
A trial. It wasn't even signing up for like the actual service he paid for. He signed up for a trial.
Worse. That's even worse.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
Holy shit! All right. Oh my god. But yeah, so in that joke, you know, you hear some people groaning and laughing in the audience, and Wolverine's like, "I don't get it," and Deadpool points out, he's like, "They do."
Yeah.
So it's like, I would love. This is what I would love to believe, that these two actors think that what Disney did was shitty, and they're out there calling them out. However,
that would be great if that's what was happening.
Yeah.
However, this feels very scripted.
Oh yeah.
So I'm thinking that they just did it, and Disney just doesn't care.
Yeah. It reeks of. I don't blame the cast member who plays Deadpool at all. Someone at that park or someone for Disney wrote that joke, handed the script to the cast member, and said, "You're gonna say this because it's something that Deadpool would say," which it is.
Yeah,
but that doesn't make it okay for Disney to write that joke.
Right.
Yeah.
And I am with you. I think in a normal situation, I probably would blame the cast member, but at the same time, it's like, in a world where if you lose your job, you could be homeless the next day, I'm okay with him trying to hang on to his job.
Yeah.
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 The economy just is not great for him to be walking out on this job right now.
Yeah. Don't blame the cast member at all.
So, yeah, the people who wrote that joke, yeah, fuck yeah. It was a cast member that wrote that joke, yeah, fuck him. But
Yeah.
We blame that cast member, but honestly, it reeks. It reeks of Disney writer. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't believe that it's just somebody who works at the park and went, "I'm going to write some Deadpool lines today." No. I mean, I could be wrong, but it does reek of Disney writer to me.
Disney's been another one of those companies, though, that's been missing the mark as well. Just making these decisions and then just being like, "Oh, well, let's roll this back a little bit." So
yeah, they did decide to waive their arbitration rights, but I mean, the idea that because he signed up for a trial like 2 years ago, and then he bought tickets to Epcot through the same account that he used to sign up for the free trial.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're trying to argue that all of that stuff, and it's all like hyperlinked. There's a great analysis by Legal Eagle on YouTube about the whole thing, and he talks about it's like the first thing is you have to agree to terms and conditions, but there's a hyperlink there that takes you to a document, and under that there's more hyperlinks to other documents, and it's like nobody is going to. I remember reading some term and condition document probably about 20 years ago, and they're like, you have to send us your computer if you want to return the software. I mean, that was in the terms and conditions, and everyone's like, wait, what? Return the computer? No, I'm not I'm not giving you my PC. Get out of here, you know?
Right.
But But I mean, you can put anything in those and people just blithely click agree. And, there's got to be some reckoning that's going to happen here about this stuff because it's just getting out of hand. And companies could put anything in there right now and it would be legally binding because you clicked agree.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be more legislation as far as what can be included in terms and conditions or how long in terms and conditions to be. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not the person to answer this question. But you know where you can go to get a lightsaber that's even better than the ones you get in the parks and you don't have to worry about their terms and conditions?
Wait, you mean better than a stick?
Better than a stick at levelupsabers.com. Could you use an awesome lightsaber for cosplay, dueling, or home decoration? Check out Level Up Sabers, the only lightsaber guaranteed better than a stick. And with lots of fairly priced options, including baselit and Xenopixel, you'll be able to find exactly what you're looking for without breaking the bank.
Every Level Up Saber comes equipped with color change, gesture controls, volume control, sound fonts, and flash on clash. With the baselit options being strong enough to duel with, and the Xenopixel options adding even more cool effects. To check them out and help Casters Guild, click our link in the description.
Moving on to the video game side of things, we just got another Nintendo Direct, which it feels like we just had one, and there was like a great big drought, and now we're getting them all the time.
Yeah, I agree. It did seem like it was quite a bit in between them.
So, just like we did for Gamescom, I'm not going to go down everything that got announced at Nintendo Direct, just because a lot of it I'm not super interested in, just like we were at Gamescom.
Right. Right.
But Aaron, have you taken a look at this list?
Yes. I will say that there are a couple things that kind of strike my fancy, though I am kind of tempted. I think the only reason why Star Overdrive is really catching my eye is because it's so different. It looks fun, but yeah, past that, I don't know. It's not really hitting anything for me.
Civ 7 on Direct is surprising to me. That's that's a very solid PC staple. Civilization, the series at least. To have it on the Direct is like, that's an interesting platform to put that on.
Yeah, you don't think of Civilization as the on-the-go game.
No, yeah, I'll just pick it up for a few minutes and Candy Crush this. Try to knock out a wonder of the world. What? No, that's not how this works.
I do. I'm sorry. I actually just remembered one of the games that's on this, and it is Dragon Quest 3. And that has been one of my favorite games Dragon Quest 3, not 4. I'm thinking Phantasy Star 4, Dragon Quest 3. Dragon Quest 3 has been one of my favorite games for a very long time, and was really pumped up to see some of the footage. I knew they were remaking it, but I haven't seen any footage yet. So pretty pumped up for that one. Past that, no, not really.
All right. I'll kind of go down the list and just point out a couple of highlights as far as I'm concerned. Starting with Tetris Forever and NES Tetris. If we're going to talk about games that are great on the go, I mean, Tetris has been around forever, but there's a reason it's been around forever, and the reason it's so popular. When it comes for a game on the go, it's hard to beat Tetris. And to get this collection of Tetris games kind of all in one, going to be launching later this year, you can't really beat that.
I know. I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, good call.
Then we're getting a couple different fighting collections out of Capcom, starting with Capcom Fighting Collection and then Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. Marvel vs. Capcom coming out in September digitally and November with physical release, and then the Capcom Fighting Collection coming out in 2025. If you're a fighting game fan, to get all of these all in one collection, all in one place, and if they can support online better than Nintendo has been known to do in the past, we'll see, then that's fantastic. If they can't, then it's okay.
Yeah.
Nice try, guys.
It'll be good for the people who have someone to play with in person.
It's exactly. These are the party games. This is, that's, I feel like what their strong suit is get everybody together in a room and then we can all play something together on the big TV. But yeah, the online stuff, there's still a lot of growth there for them.
I will say this just as a very, very side thought. I kind of wish that the artist for the Marvel vs. Capcom games would actually do a comic. That would be that'd be neat.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I love the art for the characters in that.
I would need time to research it, but I find it difficult to believe that doesn't exist.
Well,
but I mean, yeah, I'll you know what? Check back with this next episode.
There we go. Someone's got some homework.
Next, we have a Castlevania Dominus collection. When it comes to the Castlevania series, these 3 games that are going to be in this bundle are some of my favorite, especially Dawn of Sorrow. But we got Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, and Order of Ecclesia all in one bundle. And that launched yesterday as of recording. I love it when Nintendo Direct does this, like, oh, this new thing's coming out, and it's available today. So that one's available yesterday as of recording, and my wallet weeps. Next up, I've never been a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, but Help Wanted 2 and Security Breach, both available on the Switch. I'm sure there are a ton of people who are excited about it.
Yeah.
Yakuza Kiwami, I might be pronouncing that incorrectly, but it's basically a remake of the very first Yakuza game, which, in my opinion, is probably one of the best Yakuza games. Getting it on the Switch, that's just another reason to play it if you never have before. It's good stuff. Coffee Talk Tokyo. I played the original Coffee Talk just because it was on the PC Game Pass, and I was like, let me see what this is all about. And I fell in love with that game.
Is Mike Myers in it?
In Coffee Talk?
Yeah. Coffee Talk? No?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I was like, where are you going with this?
Yeah, we just lost half our listeners right there.
But yeah, I fell in love with the first game. It tells an excellent story in a really interesting way, and just another installment of that. Love that. I have never personally been a fan of dating simulators, but Date Everything looks really funny.
Every time I say I'm not really into dating simulators, I end up playing a dating simulator and having a lot of fun. So
I like
also,
the dating simulator.
Very streamable.
I like the dating simulators that don't take themselves seriously, and you're actually not dating other people.
Oh my god, I just realized that one of the people you can date in this game is your overwhelming sense of existential dread.
Yes. Because it's you date everything, you know, it's
even the game itself.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there's like some meta planning going on with that one. It's like, what could we date? Everything. You could date the game itself. Oh my god, yes.
It's funny. Okay, maybe I'll play it.
And you said it does, like you said, it
looks
very streamable. And if you're going to be streaming again soon, that'd be an excellent one to do.
Yeah, you're right.
Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope DX. If you've never played the original Shovel Knight, this looks basically just like a definitive version of the original game. It's just a re-release of the classic with just all of the extra stuff already packed in. If you haven't played the original game, this is a perfect way to do it. And it'll give me an excuse to finally use my Shovel Knight amiibo because I played the original on PC. And honestly, that's about it. There's a couple other announcements. If there's anything that got announced at the Direct that you really want to hear about, that you think we snubbed, please let us know. But that's what I'm excited about from the Direct.
Yeah. Then I kind of saw a side trailer for something called Thank Goodness You're Here, which I think looks pretty funny. Because like, you know, when you're watching YouTube and it's paused and you can see like the little other videos that are related down there. Yeah, they had a related video. But yeah, it looks like something straight out of Cartoon Network, Adult Swim kind of stuff, and it looks hilarious. So I think I might be sold on that one.
Moving on to other gaming news. This literally got announced this morning as of day of recording. I'm reading this news off of comicbook.com, but GameStop retro stores are opening across the country.
I saw that, and I was like, oh my god, that is actually kind of cool.
Yeah, this is the one thing I did not get to read, but I'm assuming it's exactly what it sounds like.
It is. And unfortunately, we don't have a ton of news about it just yet because it just got announced. So all we can do is hope and pray that GameStop doesn't completely screw the pooch on this one, as GameStop has been known to do. Kind of like the way they ruined ThinkGeek and a couple other things that they decided to do. And ever since GameStop got out of the retro business, they have dipped their toe back into it a couple times and did not do well. So hopefully what they did this time is they learned some lessons.
Sure.
And they're coming back, and this is the way to do it. I will say, ever since they've changed around the board of directors a bunch, I have liked a lot of the decisions that GameStop has been making, so hopefully they'll do it right.
Would one argue that maybe their stock might jump here pretty soon?
One can only hope.
Gotta go check Reddit to see Wall Street.
But the big thing is they put out this great big graphic with all the stuff that they're going to carry now, and it includes the NES, the SNES, Game Boy Advance, regular Game Boy, Nintendo 64, Nintendo DS, Wii, Wii U, Nintendo GameCube, Xbox, Xbox 360, PS1, PS2, Dreamcast, Sega Genesis, Sega Saturn, PS Vita, PS3. And a lot of this stuff is difficult to get your hands on nowadays, except at collector's prices. And hopefully, GameStop will make some of this retro stuff affordable again if they aren't selling it at collector's prices.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big question mark is, because the consoles are not, the platforms and stuff are not that easy to come by. Either you have them and they still work amazingly, or you've rebuilt it or whatever, but you can't. If we're finding a PS2 right now that works is not an easy feat, and then finding games that will work on the PS2 is also not an easy feat. So yeah, I'm really intrigued about this. I'm wondering if there's, what would be really interesting is if they were doing things and they were making new, like making the old games but putting them in new packaging for those platforms. So like we're sort of remaking those things somehow. But I agree with you. I think the fact that they are probably going to be just simply selling old games in their stores. I like the idea. The execution's kind of where I'm going, this could go south really badly.
As of right now, the only thing we really know is if you go to the announcement post or the GameStop Retro website, it's just a store locator that will let you know where the retro stores will be opening. So if you give them your zip code, it'll search a 100-mile radius and show you every GameStop store that will become a GameStop Retro store in the future. So that's the only thing we really know. So if you're interested at all, you can plug in your zip code and see where the next store will be opening near you.
Well, here's hoping.
All right, moving on to something completely different. This kind of came across my feed thanks to Geek Tyrant, but Tim Curry is returning to the silver screen.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Oh, he's Burke and hair. Interesting.
Yeah, this is his first role since then, since Burke and Hare. Yeah, gotcha. Like it's been 14 years since he's been actually on screen in a movie. He's done other voice roles and stuff, but this is the first time he's actually going to be on screen since then.
Yeah, and he's also had a massive stroke in between then and now as well.
Yeah, which is the one of the biggest reasons he hasn't returned.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's been wheelchair ridden at least most of that time.
Yeah, I think the only time he's actually been on the screen since Burke and Hare was for the Rocky Horror remake that was like live streamed, but of course that wasn't like a movie, wasn't on the big screen, and it was basically just more or less a cameo, and he was definitely in a wheelchair then.
I think I saw a movie poster for Stream. We just went to go see Alien Romulus, and I think they had a poster up for it.
So yeah, the movie is called Stream. There's a trailer that is out for it now. It's a horror movie. It looks kind of crazy. It's definitely not the cookie cutter horror that we get out of a lot of big studios. It is definitely looks unique and honestly a fitting return for Tim Curry, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, any return from me is good. I'm glad to see that he's still got the energy to do stuff like this. and that he's still got the drive to do stuff like this, and it's got Jeffrey Combs in it too, so and Tony Todd. Good lord.
Yeah, it's got the Candyman himself.
Yeah.
And Tim Reed. This is quite interesting. This is a collection of folks, all right.
It is in theaters right now, so I would say go and see it if you can. I'll probably be going to see it if I can get a sitter, because definitely not one we want to bring the kid to.
Oh, I'll live a little. She'll thank you for it later in therapy.
Yes. The therapist will thank you for it later. Well, and it's got like Dee Wallace in it. I remember looking at the cast list and it had Dee Wallace. And I was like, but the mom from E.T.? Whoa, okay. Yeah. Wow, okay. Yeah, no, it's quite an interesting cast. And it reminded me there was a movie a few years ago that was sort of like, you'd get text messages and it would say, hey, for $1,000 go do this thing, and I think it's called The Game or something. But this kind of reminded me of the same. It had the same vibe to it in the poster, but I didn't actually see a trailer for it, so I'm intrigued now. Gonna go check it out.
All right, and the last thing I want to bring up before we wrap up this episode, and this might be a surprise to both of you because I didn't put this in the topics to cover or anything like that.
How dare you?
Chick-fil-A is looking to launch a streaming platform. It looks like they are gathering products right now for what they're calling family-friendly, mostly unscripted original shows. The budget, they're creating budgets for unscripted shows that are around $400,000 per half hour. According to Geek Tyrant, they're also considering scripted projects as well as animation. And Brian Gibson from Top Gear and The X Factor is leading the charge on programming.
Interesting.
Are they doing conversion therapy shows on there?
So this is the point where I'd like to remind people that, choose where to spend your money wisely.
Yes.
I'm not going to call for a boycott of the Chick-fil-A streaming service because there is no ethical consumerism under capitalism. So, choose what it is that you want to boycott on your own. But I have not eaten Chick-fil-A for I don't even know how long. I want to say since around 2007, maybe 2010.
Oh,
but
I will straight up call for a boycott on Chick-fil-A. I don't even care. Fuck their streaming service. Why should I use their streaming service when we got Dropout?
I would like to remind everyone that a long time ago, around 2010, it came to light that Chick-fil-A was donating over $2 million to anti-LGBTQ plus groups, including the American Family Association, the Family Research Council, and the Exodus International and the Marriage and Family Foundation. I will let you all do your own research on why that's bad, rather than talk your ear off for the next hour. Later on, they doubled down on their decision to donate by denying the validity of the LGBTQ community, and there even came a class action lawsuit against unequal treatment of their employees who are members of the LGBTQ+. Later on, they announced that they would be discontinuing their donations to those organizations. But then, later on, their taxes were released, their tax information came out, and they were just donating to different anti-LGBTQ plus groups, including the National Christian Charitable Foundation.
Oh my God. Bless me. Sorry.
How do you really feel about that?
So, Chick-fil-A will continue to not get any of my money, be it the restaurant or the streaming service. I'm just giving you this information so you can do with it what you will.
Look, if I wanted God chicken, there is a Christian lady right down the street that makes amazing fried chicken. I don't need to go to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
So I'm completely in agreement with you guys. So I think the last time I had Chick-fil-A was like 2004. So well before any of that stuff came to light. And then after that, I was like, oh, well, I'm glad I haven't been patronizing them.
Yeah. See, that's what kills me is like I'm in your boat. I probably had it once a long time ago before I knew any of this stuff, and then just never went back. Why? Because their chicken fucking sucks. Their waffle fries fucking suck. Their sauce sucks. It's not good. You know what? As far as I know, Five Guys Burgers and Fries is not donating to weird things either. But you know what? I don't like their food either. So I'm just going to come right out and say I like what I like. I don't like what I don't like. And I didn't like them before all this came out. Now, okay, how about this? Me not liking their food doesn't mean I'm not going to ask people to boycott them. You know, I never said anything one way or the other until all this stuff came to light. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
All right.
My daughter and her high school friends, when she was in high school, they were like always go there because there was one between our house and school, and I was like, please, God, just don't. Just you understand some of your friends are gay. You understand that? Okay, I want you to be aware. And to your point, it's like, I can advise, I can make you aware of the situation here, but you're going to choose to spend your money where you're going to choose to spend your money. And, I would personally prefer it if you didn't spend my money that you're getting, because you live in my household, on that stuff. But, if someone's buying it for you, I'm not going to say don't eat it, but I'd prefer you didn't buy it in the first place. So, yeah, it was a very interesting dichotomy within that school, because there's a whole lot of very strong LGBTQ plus presence and support, and yet everybody's going to Chick-fil-A, and I'm like, what?
Right.
Stop. You're going Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby, and I'm like, no, please stop doing both of those things. I just
See, here's the thing for me personally, and the only reason I'm not calling for a boycott is I know that my money is going to some evil things. It's impossible not for your money not to go to evil things in the society we live in right now. As a matter of fact, we were just talking about Disney and how evil Disney is. Gonna be honest with you, I'm not gonna stop watching Marvel movies. I'm not gonna stop watching Star Wars. Disney's gonna get my money. It's just a matter of you can choose which evil things your money is gonna go to.
yes.
Because and you can decide which causes that you want to champion. I'm just here to educate for maybe some things that people don't know about, that they can choose to champion those causes or not.
Right.
Pick your battles, people.
All that said, I'm betting Kevin Sorbo shows up at least once on one of their shows.
It's funny you mention that, because I got invited. There's a con coming up in northern Colorado. So it's a local con for me, and they're like, yeah, we're going to be doing all these things. And one of our guests is going to be Kevin Sorbo. And I'm like, oh, and you just lost me. I was like, I was going to go, and it was a 10 by 10 booth, and then you said that. And I'm just like, yeah, maybe I don't want to go to that con right now. So, and that's, I'll say, to your point, it's a hard thing, especially as a business owner, because it's like, where do you invest and where do you not invest? And, it's like, yeah, I'm going to find people there who want to buy my game, but do I want to support the con that's bringing people who may or may not agree with either my political or religious or, social views? And you're like, is that, where do I draw the line ethically and also financially? And, sometimes making the ethical choice, or what I perceive as our, standing by our values, which is we stand firmly with that community, the LGBTQ plus community. We're not going to support people who are going to say those people don't exist. So we have to sort of not do things that could potentially make us, quite a lot of money, because we're willing to say, no, this is a question of values, and our corporate values are, no, we're not going to do that. So,
All right, Bill, thank you so much for joining us on this episode
Thank you for having me.
Casters Guild. If anyone likes what you had to say and wants to find you somewhere on the internet, where can they do that?
Best place is roundtabletcg.com for trading card game. That's our main website, and from there you can get to everywhere, including our wiki online that has like all of our cards and all the rules and stuff, so you can kind of get a really good flavor of the game before you even play it. And then also we're on Tabletop Simulator. on Steam. So if you've got TTS and you're interested in checking it out, we do have a mod available. It's free. Has all the cards. Feel free to check it out. We made a couple of decks just for fun in there, people to play with out of the box kind of thing. But those are the two main places. We also you can also get access to our socials and stuff, and we have a link tree. So we're around. And please, drop us a line or something if you guys have questions or comments or anything, or want to know more about the game. We're very responsive, and we're definitely interested in making connections with folks.
All right. Email us at castersguild.com. Let us know what horror movies you'll be traumatizing your children with this October. Join us on the Discord. That's where all the fun stuff is happening. And we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.